weeks.
From 11:59 p.m. on the 13th of September, we will have to extend for 2 weeks the current stage 4 restrictions that Victorians are living under.
The Premier ready to fend off the criticism he knew he'd receive.
There is no choice but to do this in a safe and steady way. We cannot open up at this time, then we would lose control very, very quickly. You can't run out of lockdown because all you're doing is running into a third wave.
And from mid this month, stage 4 changes mean 2 hours a day of outdoor exercise, a later curfew, and people living alone can finally have a visitor. After September 28, restrictions will ease significantly for regional Victoria, while Metro Melbourne will be allowed to socialise outside in groups of 5, exercise outside with a trainer, and send kids back to childcare. That'll also mean more than 100,000 workers can get back to it.
Warehousing, postal services, those sort of distribution services, childcare, of course, manufacturing. There are also some changes that relate to garden maintenance.
That's unlikely to silence the growing chorus saying business isn't opening fast enough, with retail not allowed back until at least the end of October.
Things that were not shut in the first stage, or what was a very harsh lockdown, that have not had cases, why aren't those things allowed to open?
As the lockdown drags on, borders stay closed and we sink even deeper into the red, getting the balance right in Victoria is crucial for the whole country.
Well, Victorian Premier Daniel Andrews is here to talk us through today's announcement. Premier, there have been strong and varied reactions today. Jennifer Westacott from the BCA thinks businesses that already had working COVID-safe plans and no transmissions should be allowed to reopen. Why can't they?
Well, Lisa, I just say this. It's not so much whether a business has had a history of infections. We simply can't allow their customers out of their homes as if this virus didn't actually exist. It's not about the business setting. It's important, but it doesn't begin and end there. It's about how many customers, how many citizens can we have moving freely throughout metropolitan Melbourne, throughout regional Victoria, and that point seems to have been missed. Ultimately, we need to do this in a steady and safe way. If we could do more faster, if we could have made different announcements today, if the science, the data and the medical experts had recommended something different, then of course I would have announced something different. We can't ignore the reality we face. Just because we want this to be over, we can't pretend that it is. There's a lot of pain out there, I understand that, but there'll be even more pain if we're open for just a few weeks and then shut down again for months.
But Premier, just on that if I can, what you've announced today, if you were running New South Wales, it would be locked down right now with where it's at with the number of cases and so forth. How do you explain the difference?
Well, there is a very big difference between New South Wales and Victoria's experience with this virus. There is much more community transmission here, and therefore our tolerances need to be much lower. Those mystery cases where someone's got it and to the best of all the work that we do, we still can't work out how they got it, who they got it from. That means every mystery case, there's at least one other, the person they got it from. So our tolerances have to be different, our circumstances are different, our second wave is very different to the experience in many other states. There's no denying that, there's no getting around that. That's why we have to do this in a safe and steady way so that we open up, yes, but that we stay open. That's the key.
Premier, most people have been doing the right thing, so why haven't the numbers gone down as quick as we thought they were going to?
Well, look, they've gone down from over 700 to some 63 cases today. That is a mighty effort, and I'm very proud of every single Victorian who's following the rules, and I think that's the vast majority doing the right thing, making a powerful contribution to properly defeating this second wave. And that's the key here. We have to defeat it properly. We can't pretend that we've won a battle we haven't won, then open up only to find ourselves confronting an even bigger enemy. Because my fear, and the doctors tell me, the data tells you, that a third wave in the middle of summer is going to be an even bigger challenge for us to face. You've got to do it in that progressive, steady way.
I understand we've come a long way, and I agree that that's fantastic. But obviously, when the lockdown was planned for 6 weeks, we thought we would be in a bit better position than we are now. Why hasn't it gone down as much as we thought it was going to?
Well, this is a wildly infectious virus, and you set deadlines, you work as hard as you possibly can, but there's no certainty in this. This is a very dynamic environment. The only thing I think that I could say is certain if we let our frustration, and it's real and it's painful, but if we let that frustration get the better of us, if we all convince ourselves to pretend that it's over when it isn't, it'll be back, and it'll be back with a vengeance. And 2021 won't be a COVID normal year. It'll be a year that features lockdown on, lockdown off. They're not the settings that benefit anybody. We've got to defeat this, do it properly,
Premier,
and then find that normal and lock it in for many, many months.
Premier, the Prime Minister, the Treasurer and the Federal Health Minister, they issued a joint release today calling the announcement that you made hard and crushing news, which kind of sounds critical. But on Friday, the Prime Minister, he did say that you wouldn't want Vic to get out of lockdown too soon. Where do they stand on this? Are they with you or against you?
Oh, well, you need to speak to the Prime Minister about the words that he chooses in media releases. I spoke to him this morning before I made these announcements. Our partnership is a very important one. There's no time for politics in this.
What do you think of the words that he's chosen, though?
Prime Ministers and Premiers need to be focused on the job at hand, and that's not trying to interpret media releases. That's working together as closely as we can to get this job done, and that's exactly what we're doing.
Premier, how are you deciding the balance between the COVID health risk and the mental health risk, particularly with today's extension of another 2 weeks? Because isn't there a real danger of the mental health cost of COVID leaving a much deeper scar for generations to come?
Well, there's no doubt that many people are doing it tough, and that's why we've had numerous announcements over these last 6 months to double and redouble our efforts to provide support to those who are experiencing mental illness for the first time because of lockdown and the stresses and strains of this year, but also those whose mental illness is becoming more acute. Their need is greater because of the pressure of these last months. There's more to do there, there's no question, and that's why we monitor that situation closely. We listen to those in that mental health field. We've got lots of partnerships, and we're very pleased to work with so many different people, whether it's Pat McGorry and Origin Youth Mental Health, indeed the federal government through some of the things that they've announced, GPs, across the board. We are alive to that issue. It is very challenging. And we will have to do more. We've got a Royal Commission on at the moment into mental health. It reports early next year. So we've acknowledged that there are challenges in that system. Many of them have been exposed in recent weeks and months, and we've all got to work really hard to support every single person who needs that mental health care.
It's an understatement to say that you've got a tough job on your hands right now. How are you going?
Oh, look, this is not about me. We just got to push on and push through. Every day in this job is about difficult choices, but this is not a difficult choice because there are genuinely competing options. This is the only option. Do this properly, do it safe and steady, or we'll be open but not open for long. We'll be back in lockdown. It's a difficult choice at a personal level, at a public level, on every level, because you know the consequences of the decision you're making. But when the data tells you you've only got one way to go, when the doctors tell you you've only got one way to go, it is not leadership to do what is popular in the short term. Leadership is doing what is right. And whether I'm criticised or praised, that is not my concern. My concern is to defeat this second wave, find a COVID normal and lock it in until a vaccine arrives.
Dan, you say it's not about you, but today is Father's Day, so your kids better have spoiled you at some point. If not, I have made some Rocky Road and am willing to send it.
Thank you very much. Hopefully that can get across the New South Wales border. That would be fantastic.
Yeah. By the time
Rocky
it gets
Road
there...
is in some ways I thought you were going to do a Rocky Road pun with
It's
road
a
maps,
metaphor.
but anyway, that's
It's
fine.
definitely a metaphor. We'll see what we can do to get Susie's Rocky Road to you. Premier, thanks so much. And once again, happy Father's Day.
Thanks very much for having us on.